I'm Mark Ramsey. I'm so excited today to talk to Jennifer Farrow. Jennifer is well known to folks in public radio and known not so well to folks on the commercial side, but I think that's going to change after this interview, Jennifer. Jennifer is the general manager of KCRW in Santa Monica. KCRW is famous for a lot of things in Santa Monica, but KCRW is also famous for a brand new app that it just published called the KCRW Music Mine, correct? Am I getting that right?
It's actually just called Music Mine. No, KCRW.
Okay, so it's called Music Mine. It is your app, and it's available in the App Store now, and it's very, very different. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that app and a little bit about the rest of KCRW. For one thing, why no KCRW on the Music Mine?
Well, there's a couple reasons for that, and I think actually you helped inspire our decision on that.
It's a trick question, obviously, but go ahead.
Well, okay, let's just be practical. There's only so much room that you have in naming an iPad app on iTunes, so there's only so many characters. But what we were really trying to do is break away from this concept of radio. At KCRW, we don't really feel like we're a radio station. And I think that when you get into different technologies, you can limit yourself by your delivery mechanism. So if people think, it's a radio station, it represents a stream, it represents, when you hear call letters, I think sometimes you think you know what you're going to get. You understand it's going to be this block of programming and there's no interaction. You know, it's like it's nothing new. So that was one of the main reasons behind doing it. And we wanted to look at this notion of breaking apart the method or the delivery of how we offer music and really focusing on what our mission is, which is really about discovery. And so we thought, let's be kind of the service providing this universe of music that we're exposing people to, and we'll focus on this concept of mining through music, that we give you this, like I said, this universe, and then allows you to play with it and learn things and see things. And another thing that we don't have deliberately on this app is a search function. And we do that because it's really about this concept of discovery. And if you already know what you're looking for, then you may not be finding anything new. So
that's what Spotify is for, right?
Right.
Well, so when you first came to this process, you came knowing that the vast majority of commercial stations, I recognize it's KCRW is a public station, the vast majority of commercial ones visualize their mobile applications as something which A, would never ever exist without their brand name on it, and B, it features most prominently, if not exclusively, their own station stream. You deliberately decided to go another way. Do you ever wonder why those stations, those many, many commercial stations, don't take a page from you?
Well, I think they're set up very differently. I mean, I don't know a lot about commercial radio, which is, I'm embarrassed to admit, but I think that the concept is very different. The goals are very different. And I think in radio, commercial radio, that notion of having, you know, these really solid formats and genres of programming, you know, that's what makes those stations get tons of listeners, because you know that you can turn this on at any time and you're going to hear one of 40 songs that you want to hear of this specific genre. And that's a really, obviously that is the right way to do it, right? Because they have way more listeners than public radio does, and certainly than KCRW does. But, you know, that's not what we're about. You know, we're about something deeper than that, and we're about sharing artistry and creativity in whatever form it takes. So we approach things differently. So I don't know if it would work so well on the commercial side.
Well, there are two things that I would suggest to you. One is the curatorial aspect of KCRW, the idea that you have these music experts who are sharing their playlists and so on, which is part of what Music Mine's about. There is an analogy for that on the commercial side for stations which are active music stations. So that analogy exists. The other thing that exists on the commercial side that's analogous is while there aren't discrete programs usually of the type that you have in KCRW, there are morning shows which are programs unto themselves. There might be nighttime shows that are programs unto themselves. In the world of news talk, you're littered with shows that are shows unto themselves. Any one of these could form their own universe around which orbits communities of interest and threads of content and all the stuff that you build out at KCRW. And to me, that's what's so interesting about what you're doing. You're recognizing that each one of these content elements exists in its own universe, and around that universe, attention orbits, and that the emphasis is to service that universe and that attention with that content thread, and let the other content threads take care of themselves, whether or not they're branded KCRW. Is that about right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, the underlying theme and the tie is KCRW, but it doesn't have to, we don't have to sacrifice anything else just so we can have our brand up there. I think that, we believe that at the end of the day, it's all going to come back together. And because we do try to convert our audience into members, we think that we're providing this value message and making people realize why they need to support it. And so it's in there, but it's sort of like we have a smaller ego, I guess, and we're okay with that.
People with smaller egos are usually okay with that. By the way, smaller ego in Los Angeles, those usually don't go together, but that's another. By the way, the other thing about the Music Mind that I think is important is your name is actually in the app. And all I can say is if more apps featured more names of general managers, there'd be more apps.
Is my name in there?
Your name is in there. Oh, yeah. There's no email address, so don't worry about that.
Oh, that's okay. I love talking to people.
You said earlier that you don't think of yourselves as a radio station. It seems to me that in a world with so many content options and distribution options, no radio station should think of themselves strictly as a radio station. Do you think that's true or no? Oh,
absolutely. I think that, radio is the device or the method of delivery. It's not the content. And if you think of yourselves as a radio station, then you live and die by how relevant that method of delivery is. So I see very soon a world where, I do it. I plug in my iPhone to my stereo in my car, and I don't really listen to radio. I listen to what I want to listen to. I listen to KCRW on our iPhone apps. But there all of a sudden is, so many other possibilities that make the actual radio transmission less relevant. And you could argue, well, if you're listening to KCRW on an iPhone app, you're still listening to radio. Maybe, but I'm listening to the content that's on KCRW. It's not wedded to the actual device. And you talk to people all the time, and I'm sure you do this too, who say, I don't even own a radio, right? They don't know how to get one. I have a young, these 20-year-olds are like, what's a radio practically,
Mm-hmm.
So that's why grandma listens to. So, and I think that, that's where the apps come in. Apps are such a brilliant technology, and they really allow you to deliver content directly to a person who wants to receive it in a clear, easy way. Better than websites, and when I think about our iPhone app versus our website is like, throw it all in there, every single thing has to be in there, whereas the app is this beautiful, elegant, thing where there's three choices.
You said you use the term apps plural for KCRW. You have more than one app. Why in the world is that?
Well, we have apps for specific purposes. So we've got we call it our KCRW, our radio app, and it's got 3 streams on it. We have a news stream, we've got a music stream, Eclectic 24, which is a full-service radio station that just happens to be online, all music, and then our regular on-air service. It also has all of our on-demand stuff, so that's all in one app. And then we've got, because again, we're a membership organization, we provide what we call fringe benefits to our members, and so you can, if you're a member, you can get discounts at over 1,000 different retailers, all online and offline, etc.
By the way, just for the record, there's no reason a commercial station, because really you call it a member app, I would call it a fan app. There's no reason a commercial station couldn't do something like that if it wanted to.
Absolutely, absolutely, and they could sell it. The possibilities for getting small and medium-sized businesses, which are traditionally do never have enough money to advertise on a radio station, well, the cost of entry is way, way lower on an app, and it's relatively easy to manage. And so, like, our Fringe Benefits app is essentially that, although we don't collect money for it, but we're, highlighting businesses that will give discounts to our members, and we've got a little description of them, a map, what's nearby, etc. But absolutely, I think there's a lot of apps out there who are trying to, on the advertising side, trying to do that and get clients. But I think commercial radio stations have a great opportunity to grab those apps, because the technology is just the tool, and you give it to your salespeople and let them say, oh, remember when I told you this, how much this ad cost to get on Kiss FM? Well, it's like, 10% if you'll just do the app.
And then the third app would be Music Mine, right?
And the third app is Music Mine, yeah.
Okay. It's not lost on people that I'm talking to KCRW in Los Angeles, and people may say, look, that's KCRW in LA. I don't have the resources that KCRW has. I mean, I have this vision of David Geffen pulling out his checkbook, writing you a 6-figure check, and that's the end of that. Now, I don't know
keep thinking of that vision, okay? Let's all think about that.
David, if you're watching. But legitimately, I mean, the process you've gone through, is this a process that requires the rarefied air and financial environment of Los Angeles, or is this something that any station in any place can do as long as they have the mission and the commitment that you have?
Any station can do it. Any station can do it. And it's like when you look at something like Slacker, which is another service that's out there, that's an online service. I mean, we have this opportunity to be engaged with our audience in a way that we never did before in broadcasting. In broadcasting, you kind of threw it out there on this big pipe and you didn't know who was listening. And now we have this opportunity to have this two-way conversation. And I think when you have a medium like radio, it is. There's only finite choices. In LA, there's 90 choices on the FM dial, right, of what people could listen to. It's still a large aggregator of people. And with social media, with digital, with all the digital tools we have, you can start this interaction and deepen this relationship. And so it's like fans. For us, it's fans/members. That's our conversion, is actually getting them to give us money. Which I guess commercial stations could do too if they wanted to go that way. But yeah, there's this great opportunity right now to have this two-way conversation, and I think it's what's demanded of users and listeners now. They want to feel like they have a say, and they will have a say because they'll go to Spotify or Pandora and make the radio station they want. So we have to think about that stuff too at KCRW. We have to think about how can we develop this relationship, and I think we are ahead of the game because we have been asking people for money. So you kind of have to have a relationship in order to get money from people. But yeah, I think commercial radio has a great opportunity.
So, I mean, in a sense, you could argue that the strategies that you're following are driven by the relationship that you have with your consumer. I'll call them consumers instead of audience because they're cross-platform. But the relationship comes first. In the commercial sense, very often we're thinking, well, I've got this audience, what can I sell? In your case, you're thinking, I've got to have the relationship because they're in the driver's seat and they're going to choose what they want to buy, right?
Right, exactly. And I think, because I do sales, I mean, I'm asking people for money. It's the same thing. You have to have a relationship when you're selling. So I think that the target needs to change maybe for commercial radio. For instead of thinking, what is this advertiser going to get? It's like, what is my audience going to get? What is that listener or that user or consumer going to get? I mean, we're all customers now. So, and we have an opportunity to have a dialogue. And I think that the mass, if you're looking at a station like Los Angeles and you have, millions of listeners, I think that you can still do a lot and make an impact, even though there's so many people in your sphere, but it doesn't cost a lot really to interact with your audience.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not going to ask you what fraction of your revenue comes from underwriting, comes from advertisers, but I am curious, when you pitch advertisers, underwriters, how much of the conversation is about ratings, if any? How much of the conversation is about other value propositions of the station and the brand?
Yeah, well, I will tell you, 40% of our revenue comes from underwriters or advertisers, 50%, 52% comes from members, and then the rest comes from various sources, including the CPB, which is a quasi-governmental organization. And that's under threat, and we don't know if we'll have that.
That's where David Geffen comes in, by the way.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, I'll be sure to get on the phone with him as soon as we hang up. You were asking me how much of the conversation?
Yeah, how much of the conversation is about ratings? How much of the conversation is ratings ratings ignorant or ratings proof?
Right. Yeah, I'd say it's 50-50. I think that there are clients who use media buyers, and those media buyers are just looking at numbers, and that's it. And so, we make that argument when we can. And then, I think that when advertisers are already coming to public radio, they know they're getting something different. They know that they're getting this certain kind of audience. And then one thing that, because we have these deep relationships with our audience, we're able to have a whole different conversation with underwriters. We can have events that are meaningful. We can have interactions that are meaningful that will allow the advertiser to have this interaction with an audience that they maybe wouldn't be able to have. And having the KCRW kind of, I don't know, stamp of approval, I guess you could say, on it, it does represent something authentic, and people are willing to support that.
And interestingly, you're using the term interaction where commercial broadcasters might use the term spots, but the fact is that interaction includes spots, but it's not limited to that, right?
Exactly.
Jennifer Farrow is the general manager of KCRW in Santa Monica, and KCRW has its new app available now in the App Store, produced in association with the Public Radio Exchange, called Music Mine. Check it out. It's fabulous, and now you know why they did it the way they did. Jennifer, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.